Chadwick Moore is a journalist in New York City, home of Brooklyn, and people who write for BuzzFeed, and he joins us tonight. Chadwick, I know I'm painting with a broad brush here, but I can kind of picture the staffer in question sneering at the middle of the country and maligning an entire group based on their skin color, which I thought was not allowed.
Right. Yeah, I don't believe your guest for one second when he thinks, your former guest, when he says he thinks that these articles are meant to be satire and make fun of racism. No. It's exactly, I think, how you painted it. These sort of liberal Oberlin kids who graduated and live in Brooklyn and for some reason want to believe in this sort of dismantle the wealth narrative, and they think the way to do that is to attack white people. I mean, it's Marxism, it's socialism, and it has the mainstream media's ear. It has mainstream society's ear. When you see these people who obsess over victimhood so much, it's so fascinating, because if you want to see racism everywhere, if you're brainwashed to see racism everywhere, or homophobia everywhere, or whatever, then you will. That's the world you will live in. You know, I was having a conversation with a woman not too long ago about this, a young upper-middle-class black woman, and she was talking about how badly she, gets treated on the street here in New York, and I said to her, what if you lived for one day as a white woman and you were treated the exact same way? People were just as rude to you. What then?
Yeah, it doesn't make anybody happier to see everything through that lens. So let me ask you about something that happened yesterday on The View. I personally missed it, but I've seen the tape. Maybe you saw. Co-host Joy Behar reacted to the ongoing protests we've been seeing in Iran by saying the U.S. is on the very brink of executing gay people in the streets. Watch this.
It's not apples and apples. It's not equal. But we're on a very slippery slope in this country toward throwing democracy out the window every single day.
We have to defend the freedom of the press and civil rights here.
We do, but we're not being stoned in the street for being gay.
Not yet. They're completely...
Now, how close do you think we are to a country where people are stoned in the streets for being gay, as Joy Behar suggests?
Look, I have to tell people this all the time. We can't even get funding for the wall, so the gay death camps are definitely not happening till the second term. I mean, we really have some time to battle this. She's completely ridiculous. This narrative that they want to push is so absurd. There's no proof to it. It's total, it's just such a load of bull. I don't know, in that same discussion, she was sort of ironically saying that the protesters in Iran and the so-called women's marchers here, these resist protesters, she called them protesters, are basically fighting for the same thing. And she said, well, the details are different about what they're fighting against. But the general thing, that they want democracy and freedom, and ours is deeply under attack in this country. All right, well, firstly, let's talk about that. In Iran, you have women tearing off their headscarves and in their hijabs. And here in New York and in Washington, you have women and men, liberal men, putting them on as a symbol of liberation.
Of course.
And when she says it, it's so funny to see her saying our democracy is under attack.
But it's also, I mean, it's such grotesque overstatement. And I know what it's like to get mad on television, but part of your brain says, pull back a little bit. Don't say more than you mean. Don't overstate things grotesquely, because if you do, you're going to be called on it. And you shouldn't say things that aren't true. No one ever calls anybody on the left when they say ludicrous things like gays are about to be stoned in the streets. What?
Yeah, exactly. It's just this hysteria, and they have no evidence for it. They have absolutely no evidence for it, and it's exactly, they're just showing who they are. They have no argument.
It's childish.
Yeah, it's very childish.
Chadwick Moore, great to see you.
All right, thank you, Tucker.